This is the intro for the replay crew. Good morning, replay crew. And everybody else will be live in approximately 10 seconds. It's 26 July 24. We're going to do the international news, refugemedical.com, promo code Bear Nation. And it says we're live now. Can you hear the words that are coming out of my face hole? Can you hear my face hole? No 5x5. Oh, there it is. Thank you, Dana. Dana to the rescue. It's Dana Friday, everybody. It's 26 July 24. We're going to talk about we're going to do the brief. We're going to talk a little bit about some international news, and then we're going to read the intel that is coming from y'all. Intel at bearindependent.com is the email address where that goes, or you can go to bearindependent.com, click the contact us tab, and contact us via bearindependent.com and send your intel in. Now, you might be asking, what is Dana Friday? Well, back in the day, son, I helped a brother build a wood shop, and we did really high-end cabinetry, furniture, millwork, et cetera, et cetera. And there was one designer that we worked with that worked with some really bougie people. And her name was Dana, and everything was a question. And she only came to the job sites on Fridays and talked like this. And so on Friday, all of my guys would talk like Dana because it was Dana Friday. So happy Dana Friday, everybody. Living off grid. What? Exactly. Guys, do the things. Listen, like, subscribe, share, help us get around the YouTube algorithmic robots. They don't like us. We are in a war against artificial intelligence, and the robots are trying to win. So the way that you do that is you help share the show with people that you love that you think need to see this. If each one of y'all could just bring one more person into the Bear Nation, that would be stellar. That would be the bee's knees. I would greatly appreciate it. And then, if you watch the show but you're not subscribed, maybe consider, because like 40% of y'all aren't subscribed. Okay, Bear. Awesome. Show is brought to you by the creator of the universe, Yahweh, your Elohim, the Lord, your God, who loves you whether you love him back or not. So maybe subordinate your ego, get on the knees, repent, accept the offering of Messiah so you can come home again. Okay, Bear. It's also brought to you by the fine people over on Patreon. Link is in the description. And of course, refugemedical.com, whom I am the chief shilling officer. Also, to a much lesser extent, founder and CEO, but I'm the face, right? So here we are. It's 26 July 2024. You may remember last week a global IT outage struck millions of computers, and what United States lawmakers have said that some call, quote, the largest IT outage in history. The chief executive of CrowdStrike, George Kurtz, definitely don't look into him at all. He's in no way compromised, has been called to appear before and answer to U.S. Congress Subcommittee on Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Protection. Excuse the burp. I had some wonderful tandoori chicken for breakfast because that's what you do. All right, that's just what you do. 0700 tandoori chicken time. A faulty update to the company's Falcon software impacted roughly 8.5 million Windows devices within a span of 90 minutes, rendering them useless with the blue screen of death. This grounded airplanes, froze bank operations, knocked broadcasters off the air, and halted medical appointments worldwide. What's worse is that the blue screen of death is something that often has to be manually repaired. Estimates from insurers show that losses among Fortune 500 companies alone likely amount to more than $5 billion from this incident, billion with a B. Healthcare and banking sectors were the hardest hit of all of them. Well, luckily, both of those sectors are well-versed in being propped up by taxpayer dollars, so they'll probably be okay. Healthcare and banking sectors were the hardest hit of all of them. It should be noted that this number does not include losses from lost productivity or damage to entity reputations or the like, but is rather related only to direct damages from the outage. Here's the interesting part. For perspective, these impacts were from 8.5 million devices being impacted, but that number is actually less than 1% of all Windows devices. In the grand scheme of things, so that means there's 850 million Windows devices? That should concern people. The robots aren't taking over, but there's 850 million. just shy of 1 billion Windows devices. Okay. In the grand scheme of things, the largest IT outage in history is still comparatively small when stood against the backdrop of the totality of interconnected technologies around the world. And it was all because of a relatively simple oops, something closer to a technological hiccup than a massive assault. Independent cybersecurity consultant Lucas Oleg was quoted by Wired saying, quote, "It reminds us about our dependence on IT and software. When a system has several software systems maintained by various vendors, this is equivalent to placing trust in them. They may be a single point of failure, like here, when various firms feel the impact." And we're going to come back to that in a moment. It should be noted that the faulty update was rapid response content, which means that it had a different, more expedited quality assurance process than the usual automated testing, extensive quality assurance, manual testing, validation, and so forth. In any cybersecurity environment, rapid response is a necessity, but now in the wake of this incident, cybersecurity company CrowdStrike is carefully fortifying its processes. Not only will it be bettering its internal testing, but it will also begin a staggered deployment strategy rather than releasing it across all devices at once. These measures should reduce both the frequency and scope of similar impacts. Now, let's go back to what Lucas Oleg had to say. Again, reminded that the CrowdStrike, not cyber attack, but cyber oops, allegedly, because CrowdStrike has nothing to do with DNC servers in Ukraine and isn't a large Democratic National Committee voter and isn't owned and operated by people that are in no way sympathetic to the cause of freedom here in the United States of America. All that aside, 1% of Windows devices, 8.5 million devices, 1% hiccup took the world offline for a day, and with still, in some cases, impacts being felt to this day. Remember that. So our buddy Lucas, again, quoting The Wire, "It reminds us about our dependence on IT and software. When a system has several software systems maintained by various vendors, this is equivalent to placing trust in them. They may be a single point of failure, like here, when various firms feel the impact." Now, you may have noticed the title of today's brief, "The Grid is Going Down." I can say this because I helped to build a lot of the grid. And before I helped build a lot of the grid, my daddy helped build a lot of the grid. Power transmission, power distribution, and telecommunications, including the first fiber that was implemented here in the United States of America, as well as long-range microwave communications, originally from a bank to a bank. Imagine that, in New York City to Boston, and then on from there. And so telecom and power infrastructure is something that I literally grew up with, and I've built thousands and thousands and thousands of miles of it. So I'm familiar with how it works. And I can tell you this, if nothing happens to the grid, there's no high altitude EMP, there's no cyber attack, there's no attacks on infrastructure by, I don't know, embedded foreign nationals who have come across our southern border. If it's just allowed to continue to operate, it will fail simply due to a lack of maintenance, because we don't produce a lot of the pieces and parts that are needed to maintain the grid here in the United States of America. And there's a severe shortage due to COVID and a lack of American manufacturing globally, but acutely here in the United States of America. So rust and the laws of thermodynamics will be what takes the grid down if nothing else happens. And it is far more fragile than you think. I don't know if you remember Texas a couple of years ago, it got cold and the grid stopped working for like a week. It got cold and it didn't work. That illustrates, just without any external threats, how fragile the grid is. So Texas has its own grid. Everybody loves to talk about how Texas has its own grid. And in theory, yeah, that's mostly accurate. But the problem is the Texas grid is wildly interconnected to both the western and the eastern grids. And I know that because I built 1,000 miles of highline in Oklahoma in order to be able to do just that about 15 years ago. So it's its own grid. It's not isolated though. And the reason they did that is because Texas is a net exporter of energy, including electricity, or at least it used to be before this woke ideological BS of global warming and renewable energy got a hold of the great state of Texas. And now they don't produce enough power to run their own systems. So thermodynamics will take the grid down. But then let's think about what's going on here with cybersecurity and cyber oopses. There are these systems called SCADA systems, system controls and data acquisition, that more or less use fiber optics for telecommunications, for commo, because fiber is not affected by EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies that come off the power lines, in order to be able to monitor through a series of sensors the grid in what's called a smart grid. And then there's devices on the grid like fuses, for example, just being one of which, that are operated by PLCs, programmable logic controllers. Think a computer in a ruggedized box that's mounted near the actual hardware that it controls. The vast majority of those are manufactured by a company called Siemens, which, don't do any digging on them. They definitely weren't integral to Hitler's war efforts during World War II, like a lot of other German companies. But Siemens manufactures a lot of these PLCs, programmable logic controllers. There's one in every wind turbine. There's one on every solar array. There's dozens, if not hundreds, inside of every coal plant, nuclear plant, natural gas power plant. They're also at our docks, our ports of entry. They're all critical infrastructure. And something like 84% of all PLCs on planet Earth are made by Siemens. And they're all infected with a virus called Stuxnet that allegedly the CIA, if not the CIA, then Mossad, and if not Mossad, then the two of them working together in conjunction, originally brought online in order to be able to infect the centrifuges that Iran was using to enrich nuclear fissile materials for their nuclear program that was only supposed to be for nuclear energy, but was actually being used to be able to build a bomb. And so, allegedly, some Israeli special operative was able to get a thumb drive into the air-gapped computers that run these centrifuges and use Stuxnet in order to control the PLCs, programmable logic controllers on the centrifuges, to alter by plus or minus 1% the speed at which they spun in an effort to wear out the bearings on the centrifuges so that the centrifuges would go down. And it worked. And then after that, Stuxnet got out onto the open market. You can literally Google it right now. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can access it right now as a standard human being. And it's been democratized. People all over the planet, bad people all over the planet, have Stuxnet, and they can make it do whatever they want it to do. And that's just on the PLC side. Now let's go to the Windows side. Those SCADA systems that control the PLCs are often Windows-based. If they're not, they might be Linux-based. They may have some Oracle plugins, things like that, but they're Windows-based. And if 1% of the Windows laptops, desktops, devices on planet Earth, 8.5 million of them, caused the planet to more or less shut down for a 24-hour period because of a piece of code that was erroneously rolled out as rapid response content. Why rapid response content? In response to a perceived or actual external threat on the system, which means Hegelian dialectic, let's manufacture an external threat to the system. We'll issue more rapid response content. Use, what's this company called? CrowdStrike as the fall guy. Just burn it like they would normally do anyway. Just burn it. CrowdStrike will be the fall guy and take it all offline. Now, here's the thing. Listen to me carefully here. If you take it all offline, you get in what's called a cold start situation for the grid. If the whole thing goes down, you don't just flip a switch and power it back up, especially if all the technology that monitors and operates the grid isn't working. You can count on one hand, and this is not hyperbole, the number of people in North America that are qualified, aka old guys who have been around for a long time, that are qualified to be able to cold start power plants on one hand. And there are hundreds of power plants in this country. And if you don't do it in a coordinated effort, how do you coordinate if all the commo is down? You'll blow fuses, you'll bust the infrastructure even further. All that to say, it's going away. How it goes excuse me, how it goes away, I can't exactly say, but I'm saying that all indicators point towards it's going away. If it's not Rust and thermodynamics, it's the PLCs and the window-based operating systems that monitor and operate the grid. If it's not those, then it could be something like a high-altitude EMP. If it's not that, then it's categorical specific strikes that are performed on the infrastructure, which is itself incredibly fragile. Our primary transformers from where the power is manufactured, be that wind turbines or solar or coal plants, nuclear plants, hydroelectric, whatever it is, where the power comes in what's called a collection system and then goes out through a transformer, hits a transmission line and takes it from where it's produced to where it's consumed in the market. Those transformers have had a lead time of 2 to 3 years. I'm sure it's longer now due to COVID. They're predominantly produced in China. They weigh about 600 to 750 tons, meaning there's only a handful of companies in the United States of America that are qualified, certified, licensed to be able to move them from a point of entry where they're brought into the country to the end location where they're installed. And there's only a few hundred people in the country that are qualified to install them. And you know how they coordinate? Email, cell phones. What if all that's down? Can't pass payment to even order one of those primary transformers because the banks are down, because of CrowdStrike or whatever. And so there's millions of vectors for attack with the grid. And I say all this from a preparedness standpoint because I want you guys and girls to understand the fragility of the system. When the grid goes down, commo goes down. Commo goes down, intel goes down. Law enforcement, EMS, and fire all goes down because they can't communicate. Hospitals go down. Oh, well, they're supposed to have backup generators. They do. They don't run forever, and they operate at a 10% capacity, primarily with the ICU and the NICU if they have one. But they don't have triage. They don't have ER. They don't have OR. They definitely don't have elective. All that goes out the window. Fuel doesn't get pumped out of the ground because there's no electricity. Unless this is something that you've been preparing for and you have portable generators and you know how to backfeed an electrical panel, and then there's 15,000 gallons of gasoline below the ground here. Congratulations, we now have access to 15,000 gallons of gasoline or diesel fuel or number 2 heating oil or propane or whatever it is. And so all this to say, it's fragile. It's very, very, very fragile. And when the grid goes down, life as we know it goes down, which goes to the CDC and the Department of Energy, who did that white paper, I think 5 or 6 years ago now, talking about they estimate that within 12 months of the United States grid going down, 90% of our population will be dead. There's no distribution. There's no food. There's no water delivered to stores. There's no water delivered through the pipes to your house. The septic and the sewer stops working. Flies, fingers, feces, people get sick. There's no distribution of medications. People who are already sick die. It's bad. It's very, very, very bad. And so from a preparedness standpoint, be thinking about what you can do to mitigate that risk, because it's unavoidable at this point. It's just a matter of when it goes away, not if it goes away. Tracking? Are we tracking on that? I know I have hit this over and over again, but I don't think as many times as I have hit this that people really understand the fragility of the system. Now, with that, we're going to briefly, take a look at an article from RT before we get into the national intel. From RT, West issues North Korean hacker warning. With all the context that I just described to you, the US, UK, and South Korea have issued an advisory about the Andariel group. A North Korean hacking outfit has targeted organizations around the world to steal sensitive and classified information. British, American, and South Korean intelligence agencies have claimed in a joint advisory. The National Cybersecurity Center, part of the British GCHQ, intelligence agency, issued Thursday's warning along with the American FBI, NSA, and Pentagon, as well as the South Korean National Intelligence and Police agencies. Quote, The global cyber espionage operation that we have exposed today shows the lengths that the DPRK, which is North Korea, Democratic People's Republic of Korea, democratic. It's democratic as long as you put the word democratic in it. It's about as democratic as our Democratic National Committee is. Shows the lengths that the DPRK state-sponsored actors are willing to go to pursue their military and nuclear programs, end quote, NCSC Director of Operations Paul Chichester said in the statement. Chichester, he's English, it's probably Chichester, Paul Chichester. According to the advisory, a group of hackers called Andariel has gone after defense, aerospace, nuclear, and engineering agencies in South Korea, the UK, and the US. It has also allegedly hacked hospitals and healthcare organizations in the US in order to extort money to fund further espionage. But remember, hospitals are fine. Hey, Bifford, thanks for the 20, bro. Shalom, Bear and Bear Nation. I look forward to all your videos, all of them. Been here a long time, just been quiet. Have a very blessed Shabbat. You too, and a great day of prep as well while we're at it. Hospitals and healthcare infrastructure. Guys, I started Refuge to empower you all to be your own first responder, to teach you how to be your own first responder, to equip you to be able to provide pre-hospital care and prolonged field care, because we've lost the golden hour here in the United States of America. And right now, rule of law, asterisk, because the tyrants are out of control. But right now, rule of law, you have a higher level of care that you can elevate to if the doors are open, if the power is on, if the surgeons and the doctors and the nurses show up for work, if the nurses aren't too busy making TikTok videos of dancing in the hallways because H5N1 is going to kill everybody now, or whatever. The point here is to equip and empower you. And I oftentimes feel like somebody crying in the wilderness. I just wish people would listen. And then on the flip side of that, many of y'all have, and I should probably do a better job of remembering that and be less jaded about it, because I'm an A type. Like, success means 100%. Like, if you didn't get 100, you're not doing well. And there's 204,000 people here, but Refuge has served 39,000 plus customers. And so what's that, 20%? So 20% of y'all are doing what you need to do. Praise y'all. That's awesome. The other 80% of you, please heed my voice. The system is fragile and it's going to go away. And when it goes away, you need to be prepared for it going away. Medical is not the only thing you need to prep, but it is certainly one of the things you need to prep. And it's one of the only preps that you can invest in that's still applicable right now, that doesn't make sense only when the balloon goes up. Okay? Like, you can use it right now. There's 126 people still alive right now because Refuge showed up for work. So that proves the point that it's applicable in rule of law and without rule of law. It's unlike my 308 battle rifle. Well, what are you going to do with that? Shoot commies in the face when the country falls. Okay, cool. Well, that hasn't happened yet. So hospitals and healthcare infrastructure being specifically targeted. The U.S. Department of State has offered a reward of up to $10 million for information leading to the arrest of Rim Jong-hyuk, who is said to be associated with Andariel. The U.S. government believes Andariel has targeted 5 American healthcare providers, 4 military contractors, 2 U.S. Air Force bases. Which ones? Is that where our strategic bombers fly out of? Because that's what I would do. Not that I have. I don't know anything about hacking. And the NASA Office of the Inspector General. Okay. Excuse me. The NCSC believes that Andariel is part of the 3rd Directorate of North Korea's Reconnaissance General Bureau and poses, quote, an ongoing threat to critical infrastructure globally. Critical infrastructure globally. Andariel was first identified in 2017 by Kaspersky and South Korea's Financial Security Institute. At the time, they described the group as being focused on attacking South Korean businesses and government agencies and interested mainly in profit. Well, now they're targeting global critical infrastructure in what I would submit as 5th generation asymmetric warfare. So just, again, reiterating the fragility of what we've got going on here. You'll see a theme in today's brief with that. We have the written or that was the written brief, the extra intel as well here. And there's a note from the Dance Monkeys here. Also, clap hand for the Dance Monkeys. If you've ever emailed intel@bearindependent.com, you got in touch with my Dance Monkeys, who's our intel team. And they say here, the following pieces were submitted beginning Friday, 19 July, the day the CrowdStrike error impacts began. Also, why does the world lose its ever-loving mind on Friday night and Saturday? I would submit the answer is because that's the day of rest, and the world doesn't want you to rest. It wants you to be distracted when you're supposed to be focusing on the creator of the universe. But that's a different conversation. Ghost Phil or Ghost Pill says 1800s, here we come. Yeah, that's a thing, right? But you can still subsidize with power generation. You know, solar panels, small scale wind. You know, one of the things that I have is multi-fuel generators, several of them that'll run on gasoline or propane. And I have several large, 500-gallon propane tanks that are full. And okay, yeah, but how do you move those? It's a thing called a skid steer. It runs on diesel, and I have diesel too. So it's really just problem solving. Start, as Pastor Joe says, contemplate the unthinkable. Think about the worst case scenario, and then think about, how do I mitigate the risk here? Because preparedness is not an excuse to hyperfixate on all the worldly drama and spin out of control mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially, educationally. Preparedness is a form of physical insurance that begins with skills, mindsets. What is that? PJ says skill set, tool set, mindset, that. So it begins with your skills and then your tools to mitigate risk. It's insurance is what it is. That's how I view it. If I need it, it's there. But I don't let it rob me of my joy. I still have to be a father and a husband and a brother and a son and a pastor and a business owner. I have lots of other things I need to do without losing my cool because Putin said some more words today. Or did you see what happened with the presidential nominee in the United States of America? Like, that stuff's relative, but I would submit it's not the most important thing. Most important thing is your relationship with the Creator by the blood of the Son, and then your family being your first ministry, and then your other left and right relationships. And then somewhere on that list is preparedness, but it's definitely not the first. So, national intel. Should we do a plug? Should we do a plug right here? I feel like I already kind of did a Refuge plug. We'll talk real quick. We did a thing yesterday. I know it's 2024. You can get one of these BPKs, bleeding prevention kits. They start at $60. Okay. And a lot of y'all have. We've sold, I don't know, close to 1,000 of these. So you can get one of these bleeding prevention kits. There's basic, intermediate, and advanced. And this is the advanced, and it has a cat tourniquet, responder gauze, or 2 compressed gauze, 1 emergency trauma dressing, 2 pairs of gloves, a set of shears, Mylar blanket, permanent marker, instruction card, flat duct tape, pair of chest seals, combat Z-fold hemostatic gauze, and a nasal pharyngeal airway. So this is massive bleeding airway and respiratory. You get one of these, starts at $60. And if underneath the listing for this at refugemedical.com, you search bleeding prevention kit, if you just scroll down just a little bit, you can add a nylon pouch. This is a multi-cam Bearfac outer. And you can take this $60 kit and put it in this greatly reduced because Joe Biden is screwing the economy and all of his friends inside of here. And you have $103 to be exact. Bleeding prevention kit, blowout kit that's Molly compatible, made in America, guaranteed forever. See that little tag right there? Made in America. $100. These are gonna sell out. I know that. And I told the patrons about it yesterday because they're gonna sell out. And so I would recommend if you need some more kits or you need a kit but you haven't got one yet, get a BPK basic, bleeding prevention kit basic, and a nylon pouch. This is the Bearfac pouch right here. This one's in multicam black, but they come in multicam and coyote tan and gray and black and ranger green and red with reflective. If you're a civilian red with reflective. 80% of the kits we sell are in red. Also, I noticed all of our competition now offers red as well. You're welcome for the good idea. But this is $100. $100 for Made in America, guaranteed forever. That's a pretty damn good deal. And maybe you want to do something a little bit more comprehensive. This is the Bear Fac, the full Bear Fac. And this one is designed to work the entirety of the March algorithm. And it has the internal organizational pouch so that all your stuff is laid out per priority of care. You can find this at the store as well. $249, I think, something like that. Made in America, guaranteed forever. There is no better first aid kit. If there was, Refuge wouldn't exist. I would have never started the company to make real first aid kits that actually save people's lives. And we're up to 126. So in the mouths of 2 or 3, let a thing be established. 126, 68 of which were motor vehicle accidents, 22 of which were law enforcement officers. And then the remainder were chainsaw injuries, job site, workplace injuries, and military personnel. And so if you're like, I'm just a mom in a minivan, I don't need a bleeding prevention kit. It's like 68 of our 126. What's that, literally half? No, not quite half. It's a little over half. 68 have been motor vehicle accidents. So there's some food for thought. Refugemedical.com. And your promo code's Bear Nation for free shipping as well. So let's do the extra intel, the bonus intel. 1, my local sheriff's office is having a massive computer issue. They would not give specific details. Here in the 43130, I called in last night with a question. They were not able to access any of their data. So back again, the fragility of the system. The sheriff's department is down. Okay, that goes to peace officers, law enforcement. They can't respond if they can't communicate. They won't, in many cases, respond if they can't communicate because they can't guarantee the safety of their officers. So they don't respond. So who responds? You. This goes back to preparedness. What are you going to respond in? Well, I got my plate carrier and my rifle. Cool. Do you have a blowout kit on that plate carrier? Because that's a 2-way range, homie. Do you have a way to fix yourself if things go sideways? It matters. All of their staff were out on calls at the same time. I called the police and got the same story. Not sure what's going on, but it's rare for all police and sheriffs to be on active call at the same time with no sirens heard. That is all. 2, here in the 43130, we are seeing massive computer issues at our hospital as well. Again, who do you elevate to? What's your higher level of care? That's why we put the bucket promo together. If you get the 4-banger bucket promo, which is a surgical bucket, a wound care bucket, a postpartum bucket, and a birthing bucket, congratulations, you have an expedient field hospital, prolonged field care. This is directly from my patient who is in cybersecurity. Quote, this is going to take a while to fix. I asked if he thought he could come in later or tomorrow. No, it will take much more to fix this mess. Let's try next week. I scheduled him for Monday. He told me looks tentative but hopeful. In the town of Carrollton, Ohio, all gas stations are down due to computer issues. All gas stations are down. Computer issues. Even if the electricity is running to power the pumps, they can't process payment, digital currency, which goes back to have real money on hand if you can. They can't make gasoline come out of the ground. It also comes back to just very basic, SOPs, standard operating procedures. I don't like to let our vehicles get below a half a tank of fuel. And when they get at 3/4, if I'm just running around town on the regular, I'll fill them back up again. I like to keep our vehicles as close to full as possible because I never know when I'm going to need them. I might have to run out in the middle of the night due to a hurricane or a tornado. I might have to run out in the middle of the night due to counter-trafficking stuff, or the grid could go down like it got cold in Texas, or there could be a cyber attack or a cyber oops, and now you can't process payment for food, fuel, medical necessities, all that. It just goes away, and it's that quick. It's that fragile. 4, quote, colleagues, we are notifying you about a technical outage that is affecting some of our internal and customer-facing operations. Just to be clear, this is a global issue that is impacting Microsoft-based systems as well as others. Please note there are no impacts to safety-sensitive operations at this time. IT teams are responding along with the appropriate business partners. If you're experiencing individual technical issues, file an incident or call the IT desk. We'll keep you updated as new information becomes available. 5, the following was a press release from my local county sheriff's office. A software company did the blah, blah, blah that we all talked about. In the event the telephone lines fail again, we are providing 2 contact numbers for emergencies. 6, I'm sure you've gotten 100 intel reports about this not a hack event. Here's mine just in case it adds a piece to the puzzle. I'm a CFO, Chief Financial Officer of a global nonprofit that focuses on rare and ultra-rare diseases. We have patients and families in 36 countries. Starting around 2 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, our social workers, patient advocates, and even the CEO and I have been bombarded with countless messages from parents, caregivers, and HCW's healthcare workers because patients in hospitals are not able to order or receive meals or meds because everything is down. These are this gentleman or this woman's words. Gentlewoman's words. These are not my words, but in the mouths of 2 or 3, let a thing be established, right? And sometimes a prophet is not revered in their own country. You probably heard me talk about these things a bunch of times. M81 camo, please, says S blank. Oh, thanks for bringing that up. Today's the last day that you can get the SOB or the bare minimum or the bare FAC rather in M81 Woodland. So I would go, and the store closes at sundown tonight. It reopens at sundown Saturday because 6 days ye shall labor. The 7th is a Sabbath of rest unto Yahweh your Elohim, the Lord your God. And we observe a biblical Sabbath, and therefore our store is closed. I'm not trying to argue with anybody about that, but we do that. We have that conviction. And so the store will close at sundown tonight. After that, there will be no more M81 Woodland. And so you can get this kit, the Bear FAC in M81 Woodland, or you can get the SOB, this kit, which is small of the back, great on a plate carrier, war belt, duty rig, weighs less than a pound in M81 Woodland. You can also get the bare minimum in Marpat. Today's the last day for that as well. Marpat Woodland. So if you eat crayons for fun, Marpat's your jam. The bare minimum is available in Marpat ending today at sundown. And so if you, Astoris, what is the OSHA first aid requirement for kits and accessibility? Okay, well, I guess we're here now. So I'm just answer this real quick. So to the gentleman who said M81 Woodland, today's your day, because after today it's going away because frankly, it doesn't move that well. There's a very small but very vocal crowd that's very into M81 Woodland, and it's like 4 of y'all. There's like 4 of y'all that want M81. Well, today's your day. As far as an OSHA kit is concerned, there's 2 types of OSHA kits, an OSHA A and an OSHA B, which being the government doesn't make any sense because you'd think like EMT A means advanced, OSHA A would mean advanced, EMT B means basic, OSHA B would mean basic, but it's actually the opposite. OSHA A is their basic, OSHA B is their advanced. And the basic is your standard workplace kit. And everybody and their brother makes a basic OSHA first aid kit. It's boo-boo stuff and over-the-counter medicines and disinfectant and gloves. Maybe some large gauze pads and some tape. The advanced kit is required to be within 4 minutes of any area of an operation that has the incidence for laceration or delimbing is not the word I'm looking for. That's a forestry term. You could lose a limb. Okay. Come on, brain. Wake up. I haven't had any coffee yet today. What is Marpat? What is Marpat? Marine pattern woodland? The best camo pattern on planet Earth? Yeah. Marpat is marine pattern woodland. Amputation. Thanks, Bertrand. Laceration or amputation. And so this is going to be like loading docks around heavy equipment, around industrial machinery, job sites where we're running saws, miter saws, circular saws, anything like that. Presses that you're bending metal, CNC machines within 4 minutes is the OSHA regulation. Has to be within 4 minutes of where that could happen on the job site. And then that kit must contain a Committee on TCCC recommended windlass tourniquet, like the Cat Gen 7 or the Soft T. And so we make the OSHA kit. We call it the OCS, OSHA compliance kit. And we make one version, which is the advanced. It covers everything you could possibly need on a job site. Eye wash, and we actually had one of our lives saved was a guy on a job site who got critically overheated and became a heat casualty, and they were able to crack the cold packs and administer orally per Oz oral rehydration salts, get him into the shade, keep him cool until Hire was able to get to him and get him in an ambulance and get him taken care of. And so, what is the best camo for the Ozark Woods? I guess we're doing Q&A today. I like Marpat Woodland, and MA1 Woodland also works great. And I like Ranger Green. Ranger Green works really, really, really well. This time of year when everything's greened up, it works great. If you just stand still, nobody can see you anymore. There's a lot of like Coyote Tan and Multicam. Multicam doesn't work here. It's too brown. It's too drab. Everything is green around here. So if you were to go walk in my woods or walk in my hay fields with Multicam on, the colorblind guy, could see you because it doesn't blend. But Ranger Green does a great job in the woods. So, why have a patterned kit? It depends on the application. So anyway, the OSHA kit, you want the OSHA advanced, and the reason or the reasoning behind saying it's got to be 4 minutes from the casualty is ridiculous, because if it takes you 4 minutes to get there and 4 minutes to get back, that's 8 minutes. Everybody right now within the sound of my voice, make a fist, stick up your thumb, look at your thumb. That's the diameter of your femoral artery. It runs along the insides of your thighs, down through from your groin, down through the insides of your thighs to your feet. That's a garden hose. And if you partially or completely sever that garden hose, you have 90 to 120 seconds before 50% blood loss, and you pass out at roughly 50% blood loss, which means if you're passed out, you're not rendering self-aid, which means we got 90 seconds max to be able to solve this problem. Also, 50% of your blood loss begins what's called irreversible hypovolemic shock, which is a physiological condition that I don't have time to teach you today. But suffice it to say that under the best of circumstances, you have a 50% chance of survival if you lose 50% of your blood, which also means the more blood we keep inside your body, the higher your likelihood of survival, which means the tourniquet shouldn't be 8 minutes away to solve a 90-second problem. It should be near to you. Preferably on you. Even on a job site, yeah, man, tourniquet costs $30. Stick one in your pocket. A real tourniquet costs $30, and the $5, $10 ones from Temu or from Recon or from China or anybody else, they break. They don't work. In fact, I just bought a Recon kit. We're all the way in the weeds. We'll get back to the brief shortly. I just bought a Recon kit specifically to be able to review on camera, and I want to show you guys when I paid with PayPal, who it was that I paid. If you can look at the screen, one more step, finish paying. You see that? That's not words. At least not in our language. That's a bunch of Chinese characteristics. Focus, you dumb thing. There it is. Finish paying them. When you buy from Recon, that's where it goes. And that's a fact. It's like 16 Chinese characteristics. And I don't know if you know this, they don't love us. They don't like us. And what better way, asymmetric warfare. What better way to demoralize us and take people off the battlefield than to sell air quote medical equipment that's going to get people killed? Back to the brief. I have personally called 19 hospitals today. One woman, a supervisor, was absolutely beside herself and said they had no backup plan for this shit. And that's a quote. She said nurses are writing stuff down on paper. She confirmed that food was not being served because they can't access patient dietary restrictions and can't coordinate meal deliveries. Another hospital, part of Banner Medical Systems, confirmed that the patient's surgery had been delayed, but that means their insurance needs to authorize the patient staying in the hospital longer and changes in medication and care administered. I see the news reporting about delayed flights and Uber DoorDash being down. Yeah, that sucks that folks couldn't get 2 Big Macs at 2 a.m. But we haven't seen a focus by the mainstream media about the impact of hospitals and first responders. Our whole system is so damn fragile, is deeply concerning and embarrassing. Next, I may be a little late. Intel. I have firsthand sources into Channel Communications, Lockheed, Common Spirit Medical, and Johns Mansville. The first 3 were hit really hard. JM, not so much. Common Spirit Medical had to reschedule surgery and do electronic equipment problems, had to use paper for patient notes, no electronic records. Remote patient visits were shut down. This information is from the CEO's admin. JM corporate phone systems had a lot of incoming calls dropped and hang-up calls, and was running all of JM's switchboard calls yesterday, and she works part-time. Next, I'm sure by now the whole world knows about the Microsoft outage, but I want to add my 2 cents for what it's worth. I work in maintenance at a major auto manufacturer in South Carolina. We're the largest exporter by value and have a massive campus with multiple body shops, paint shops, and assembly halls. Around 1:30 to 2 a.m., we started getting calls about Vision PCs randomly restarting. These PCs tell the robots where the cars are in the stations, and the robots will not run without them. That's good to know, guys. That's how we take over the robots. We just EMP the robots or just upload Baby Shark corrupted AVI file to them. And then the robots all just start, Baby Shark, do, 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 do. You're welcome. Now it'll be stuck in your head all day. Bear, why would you do that? Because I have a baby now, and you must suffer like I suffer. These PCs tell the robots where the cars are in stations, and the robots will not run without them. We thought that this was weird, but everything restarted without issue, and soon we were back up and running. However, on the way back to the office, we noticed that some of the HMIs that control the robots were down. They automatically started and left us with the dreaded blue screen of death. We narrowed it down to the CrowdStrike program, and the computer guy on my team was able to come up with a workaround. It turns out that every area of the plant was experiencing these issues, and I immediately thought cyber attack. None of the robots, conveyors, or processes were affected, which told me that the issues didn't extend to the PLCs. That's good. But notice, again here, so industrial manufacturing plant, Windows PCs that inform PLCs, programmable logic controllers that then inform the equipment. And vectors for attack are both the PCs, the computers, and the PLCs, programmable logic controllers, before you get into the hardware of the equipment, which, depending on the type of hardware we're talking about, itself might be able to be hacked, because a lot of that hardware has its own onboard computer systems. Think about like CNCs. The first C in CNC is computer numerical. Yeah. So none of the robots, conveyors, or processes were affected, which told me that the issues didn't extend to the PLCs. The so-called bug didn't affect our production directly, but several of our suppliers were down hard, which caused production to stop early. There are a few lessons and general reflections from this. 1, I turn wrenches and pull wire, so this is not my specialty. This is how the computer guy explained it. If CrowdStrike fails and keeps the computer from booting up, you can bypass it by booting the computer in safe mode with commands and rename the driver. Since the computer is looking for a specific file when it starts, it will miss it and let it boot up. CrowdStrike is a security program, so do that at your own risk. 2, PLCs were unaffected, but there was no way to enter manual commands. That's huge. Let's go back to the grid. Cold start of the grid. The PLCs themselves were physically unaffected, but there was no way to enter manual commands. There was no way to beep, boop, beep, and make the stuff work again. If anything went wrong, we would be stuck until the PC was fixed. This is concerning when it involves my income, but unresolved issues with power or water could be catastrophic. 100%. The vast majority of people have no idea how affected we would be by this. Everything in our daily life requires the successful flow of electrons. Just like physiologically, your heart has to beat and your lungs need to reliably inflate in order for you to continue to breathe and circulate. And if you don't do so, you will die. And your autonomic nervous system just does it. The autonomic nervous system here on the grid, on society, is a successful flow of electrons. It has to happen. If it stops, even for a moment, the impacts are severe. And if it stops and stays stopped, that's what we call physiologically a clinical death. No heartbeat, no respirations, clinically dead, which is different than biologically dead because we can use CPR and an AED in theory and shock you, electrons, back to life again. So you go from clinically dead back to clinically alive again because you're not biologically dead yet. The cells haven't died. They're dying. They're on their way to dying, but they're not dead yet. It's the same concept here. The electrons have to flow. Our society is an electric society. And if the electrons stop flowing and we don't shock the system and get the electrons flowing again, or we can't shock the system, there is no AED. The AED doesn't work. Or the rhythm that we have is not shockable because there's some rhythms that you can use an AED on and some that you can't. The patient dies. Well, in this case, the patient is our global society dies. It's a bad deal. 3, this incident showcases how complex the global systems are. Many companies and industries are structured on Microsoft programs, but they aren't entirely in control of their own products. They require others to make and maintain critical pieces of their software. 100%. That's bro, Morris. This is why Shabbat is so awesome. It's like a spiritual AED. I love it. 4, maybe this was a cyber attack. Maybe it was a buggy update. Maybe someone was fed up with their job and decided to quit in style. No matter how you cut it, the potential impacts are very real, and I don't believe these problems will improve anytime soon. Next, I'm an HVAC refrigeration technician in the PNW. Over the last several months, we've been noticing a sharp decline in technical support for our more complicated products and even some of our conventional ones, to the extent that it can take several days to get someone on the phone from one of the largest manufacturers in the world. It seems that compared to 10 years ago when I started in this trade, there are not only fewer people with any real knowledge working on the equipment, but also a massive lack of support for people in the field. Not sure if this is a regional issue, but given these circumstances, pre-planning for potential issues related to personal climate control and food storage is becoming far more important as the demand for technician goes up and the supply goes down. It's a great piece of intel. By the way, if you have intel you want to share with the Bear Nation, and intel means that not read this article or watch this video. It means stuff that you're experiencing yourself, that you've seen with your own eyes, that you've heard with your own ears. Intel at bearindependent.com. Intel at bearindependent.com. The Rickster. Can I have a bear fact made in Alpine camo since the sew shop is now in-house? So Badger doesn't work with the sew shop. Badger doesn't work with Refuge Medical. You can email admin@refugemedical.com and have that conversation. I live in a small town in Middle Tennessee. For the last year, unmarked buses have been showing up and dropping off migrants, mostly from Mexico, Central and South America, Africa, and now some Haitians. They've been mostly housed in the Roach Motel surrounding the local Walmart. Lately, though, things have changed. The hotels are so full that they are now taking over local campgrounds and even living in tents on the shores of the lake at the local parks. My friend took her kids to the lake for a relaxing day of play, only to have to leave early due to the migrant children stealing their toys and snacks. Another friend, a Mexican who came here legally and owns his own business, has also been having problems with migrants. Those who are here from Mexico are going into his store trying to get free things and money, saying he owes them because they are from the same country. He told them to get out and never come back. Those who follow the rules and came here legally don't like these migrants either. 100%. There's a lot of that going on around the country. And if you have an astute eye, you'll notice down here, bottom corner of the core values banner that I have hanging up, you'll notice a device that YouTube frowns upon being handled on a live stream. This particular device is chambered in 12 gauge, 3-inch. And there's this stuff called buckshot, roughly 9 to 15 3/8 diameter pellets, like 9mm diameter pellets. And there's a bunch of that in there. And there's a bunch more on the buttstock and a side saddle. And that makes a really good get away from me, bro, device if you have run-ins with these people who aren't supposed to be here legally. Just throwing that out there. What's up, Andy Barnes? Shalom, brother. Love the 12 gauge. Me too. Shop stuff. Another witness to that. I ruck 3 times a week with a Mexican illegal immigrant. He's super frustrated about it all. Amen, bro. Amen. You're welcome, the Rickster. James, it's a problem everywhere. HVAC industry is falling like everything else. Oof. Oof. Yeah, and Iron Wolf, the biker. No ballistic identifier. How is buckshot for home defense? All right, well, there's no replacement for shot placement. I like it. So, on the evening of 19 July 24, somebody attempted to enter my home at roughly 0:30. I was awake and my rifle was near me. I heard the back screen door open and my dogs immediately began barking and running towards the door. I grabbed my rifle, turned the indoor lights off, and took a defensive position. Pointing my rifle at the back door and holding it chest height, I maintained awareness of the front door as well as the windows. Thankfully, it seems the dog's barking scared the would-be intruder away. After a few moments, I cleared the door while remaining within my home. In addition to my full-time employment, I'm a part-time officer at a local PD within the county. I live in the country outside the sheriff's department's jurisdiction, so my property falls outside of the department's jurisdiction, so my property falls within the sheriff's office jurisdiction. After the door was cleared, I called the SO, sheriff's office. An unfortunate reality is that calls from officers typically receive a higher priority than others. That being said, it still took the deputy over 40 minutes to arrive. You know the average national EMS response time? 47 minutes. You got a critical bleed? I would never get a critical bleed. You ever drive a car before? 47 minutes. You got 47 minutes to solve a 90-second problem. You know what happens if you solve a 90-second problem in 47 minutes? You die. Yeah. Took the sheriff's deputy 40 minutes on a priority call to get to this gentleman's house. That being said, it still took the deputy over 40 minutes to arrive. I told the unorganized dispatcher that I did not need to speak with a deputy, but that they should definitely search the area in case this person was attempting to enter one of the few other homes in the area or commit some other crime. The crime rate in my area is very low, but the few crimes carried out in this area are usually serious. To that point, I also live out in the country in the sheriff's jurisdiction. And response times out here are maybe an hour. And we've had in the past dope fiends, meth heads that steal people's stuff. And we have a really robust community watch. And, well, just one example. There were some people doing some stuff they weren't supposed to do. And so we put eyes on them, called the SO, sheriff's office. By the time the sheriffs got there with handcuffs, those people were long gone. And so we were able to track them to a bed down location, and they bounced from that BDL to a different bed down location. And then we were able to use aerial surveillance to ascertain that they were inside of the building, and then back the sheriffs to go in with a warrant and arrest those people. And so you have to be able to provide your own security as well, now, as well as in the future. And if somebody here in Oklahoma, somebody trespasses onto your property, whether they pose a threat or not, you can shoot them. If they do pose a threat, I will shoot them. We have pulled long guns on people on many an occasion around here. And we now have the reputation as those really nice people you do not want to F with. And I love that because the incidents of us getting effed with have gone way down. And that also builds rapport with our neighbors, because our neighbors, they're like, we want some of that good too. We don't want people to mess with us either. All right, let's be friends. And so now literally when something's going down in my area, people call us first, and then we elevate to the sheriff's department as needed. And that's not a brag. It's not like, oh, we're so cool. It's just a fact of living in the country in 2024 in a rural area. And I have more guys than the sheriff's department does. And frankly, we have more training than the sheriff's department does. They have badges and handcuffs. And so when it's badges and handcuffs time, we let them do that. But everything up to that, we tend to handle it. Oh, aside from his quick drive to the county line, roughly 200 yards from my property and back, the deputy did not perform a search of the area and was gone in about 5 minutes. Again, the response time was over 40 minutes. Remember, folks, you will often be your own first responder. Amen. Have your fire stuff, suppression squared away. Have your medical stuff squared away. Have your ability to project force squared away. And possession does not equate to proficiency. You got to know how to use all three of those things. You have to know how to use them under stress, in the middle of the night, in the dark, without thinking about it. That's called automaticity. You have to be able to use them under stress. You have to practice. You have to train. Have the means to protect yourself and your loved ones, as well as the knowledge, skills, and equipment to render medical aid should the need arise. Additionally, work to have good relationships with your neighbors. I've informed a few of my neighbors of this, and they are also on alert. Agreed. Next, I work for an engineering firm near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Since the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge, the surrounding ports receiving the traffic meant for Baltimore have been overwhelmed by both ship and truck traffic. The firm that I work for was contracted to write an environmental report prior to expanding the roadways near the port in Philadelphia to alleviate the bottleneck on the land-based side of cargo transport. The amount of truck traffic my assistant and I observed, though, through the heavily industrialized area, both in and out of the port, was insane. We walked the site for 2 days, taking notes and numerous photographs of the roadway, the port, and the adjacent industrial plants, including near the port administrative and security offices. At no point were we approached by port security, plant security, or local law enforcement during our time on site. This leads me to believe that security is overwhelmed to the point of writing off people in high-vis and hard hats as part of the landscaping. Our ports appear to be more vulnerable than before. Keep your head on a swivel, especially if you work in security or law enforcement. Bad actors can buy high-vis too. This has been going on forever. Cover for action. Hard hat and a safety vest and a clipboard and act like you're supposed to be there. You do blend into the background. If somebody gives you a hard time, there's always a Jimmy. I'm supposed to meet Jimmy, or Jimmy told me to come over here, or Jimmy from the office said. There's always a Jimmy. Yeah, it's a thing. And like the appropriate uniform and acting like you're supposed to be there. I went to the Thayer Hall at West Point in New York to see Dick Marcinko, who stood up SEAL Team 6, speak at Thayer Hall. And I was not a cadet. I was not in the Army. I went to the surplus store and bought some new M81 BDUs, and I starched them and pressed them and shined my boots and shaved and got in line with everybody else standing outside the gate. When they opened the gate, everybody walked right in there, and I sat down along with everybody else. And I heard the Sharkman of the Delta, Demo Dick Marcinko, speak for an hour. Then after that, he had a book signing in the hallway, and everybody stood in line to get their book and, have him talk to them. And Marcinko's sitting there, and he reaches up with his hand, shakes my hand, and that guy was strong. Like all the bones in my hand were like grinding together when he shook my hand. And I squeezed back. They said, "Who do I make this out to, soldier?" And I just smiled and I said, "I'm not a soldier." They looked at me and said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I read your book, Red Cell, and I really wanted to hear you speak. So I just dressed up and got in line with everybody else because I wanted to hear you speak." And he got this giant shit-eating grin on his face. And he said, "Good job. Good job, son," and signed my book, and I went about my business. So I got on the West Point because I looked like everybody else and acted like everybody else. Okay? It can be done. That was 20 years ago, probably 20-ish years ago. B-ski, 100%. That's some Red Cell stuff there. Exactly. And that little lesson has served me well to this day. Details of which I'm not going to give you any further details than that. All that stuff's open source. But doing counter trafficking stuff, right uniform, right attitude, and nobody pays any attention to you. Next, I'm the only person in my company that can write the report to advance the road work and reduce the bottleneck. My point is, our system is extremely fragile when one person could hold up a project this size and criticality. Don't let the president asterisk fool you. We are in an increasingly unstable position as a country. Don't expect things to get better. Nobody is coming. It's up to us. Amen. Next, last month, John Deere continued to implement more layoffs to include both wage and salaried workers. Another round of layoffs is in progress this month. About 600 more are expected in my town. A coworker with over 20 years of experience said it's never been this bad, end quote. The company has now decided to change their social policy, DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. This pretty well signifies that the economy has been purposefully degraded as we see more companies reversing their social policies that didn't make sense for businesses in the first place. Opinion. Industrial base is poised to convert to wartime production by reversing DEI and increasing patriotic rhetoric. All this with increasing unemployment will likely lead to higher military recruitment rates. That's a good observation. That's a really good observation. Thank you. Next and last, I work nights. So after work on Tuesday, I went to a local grocery store to pick up a few items for the house. Normally, they are finished stocking the shelves by the time I get off of work, but it looked as if they never touched the shelves. There were no pallets of water, and items such as ice cream, cream cheese, juice, hamburgers, chips, cereals were in extremely low numbers. Staple items were low in stock. The restock pallets they keep on hand were low or not there at all. I've also been seeing small stands on the side of the road selling random items such as stuffed animals, light-up toys, and the like being ran by foreigners that don't match the mannerisms, clothing styles, or ethnicities from our area popping up all around town. The foot traffic at night and early mornings has increased notably as well. Stay safe from Southeast Idaho. Southeast Idaho. I thought that was the Redoubt, man. Everybody's safe up there. It's everywhere, is my point. It's everywhere. That's the show for today. If you have some intel that you'd like to provide for next Friday's brief, intel@bearindependent.com. Now, real quick, let's talk about Grindstone Ministries and Caleb House. Grindstone Ministries is our disaster relief 501c3. We're nationally registered. We have the same authority as the American Red Cross. We get in there and get stuff done. We forsake not the widow and the orphan. We are pro bono. We don't charge the homeowner. We don't charge the municipality. We don't charge the state. We don't charge the federal government. We don't have volunteers show up on site and then bill the government for your volunteer time. We're just 100% privately supported by y'all. And we've deployed 44 or 45 times. I'm beginning to lose track in the last 5 years. And as such, we've beat the snot out of the equipment that we have. We're very thankful for the equipment that we have, but we're spending exorbitantly more and more each month on maintenance to maintain readiness for the next storm, the next hurricane, the next tornado. And as such, if the Spirit moves you and you'd like to pour into Grindstone Ministries, you can go to Grindstone Ministries and leave a charitable donation. If not, that's okay. If you want to come party with us on the next deployment, sign up for the email blast. We don't spam you. We don't sell your email contacts. We just use that to be able to distribute information about when the next deployment is, what the details are, 5-paragraph op-ord, where we're going, what we're doing, who's in charge, blah, 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 blah. Also, if you need a Bible, you can buy one at our cost at grindstoneministries.com. If you can't afford one, you can contact us at grindstoneministries.com. KSL, Kentucky Sustainable Living. I owe you a callback, brother. I saw that yesterday. I was in the middle of something. So give me a moment. I'll holler at you. It's, as the channel has grown, it's been really interesting to see, like, I have a fair amount of communication with a bunch of y'all. And a lot of times, instead of texting you back, I just end up saying things like that during a live stream. So, yeah. But if you can't afford a Bible, go to grindstoneministries.com. We will send you one for free. Contact us there. Give us your shipping information so we know where to send it, and we'll take care of the rest. And that's part of what your donations to Grindstone facilitate, is being able to give away thousands of copies of the Word. So check it out, grindstoneministries.com. Link is in the description. Caleb House, Caleb with a K, calebhouse.org. is our counter-trafficking 501c3. We operate nationally inside of CONUS, Continental United States of America, for the rescue and restoration of juvenile human trafficking survivors. We're one of only a handful of people that are doing restoration in this country, and the current number of beds that are available for juvenile survivors is 420. And there's a major asterisk to that because that's max capacity at full operational capability, and none of these other ministries, of which there are 4 nationally, are operating at max capacity or max capability. So the number of beds that's actually available is much lower. We maintain a network of safe sites right now that we can house people in after the rescue operation so that we can put them back together again, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, educationally, financially. We're also in the process of building a restoration facility, and we are 2/7 funded. Do the math on that. And so thank you to everybody who's been pouring into Caleb House. I would ask you to prayerfully consider a recurring donation that helps us to budget. We know what we have coming each month. If the Spirit moves you, if it doesn't, mazel tov, that's okay. Rescue puppies or work in the soup kitchen or do something else, but do something. Do something. And Caleb House is doing something about our trafficking problem here in the United States of America. So if the Spirit moves, you can find us, Caleb with a K, calebhouse.org. Link is in the description. And I've already told you guys about Refuge Medical. It's the last day for M81 woodland, bear facts, and SOBs. It's the last day for marine pattern woodland bare minimums. And I told you about get a bleeding prevention kit, one of these guys. And on the bleeding prevention kit page, right underneath of the price, you can add a bear fact outer. It's just the outer. It's not the inner organizational pouch for $39. And that's a hell of a deal for, I mean, I have brothers that are selling dump pouches for $75 and are out of stock consistently for a dump pouch. This is a bear fact pouch, which honestly works great for anything. You can stick 4 or 5 AR mags in here. Definitely get 4 AK mags in here. You can stick an Nalgene with room to spare in here. There's also the bag only option. If you have a kit and you need a bag, you can use a search bar, put in bag only. But you can put an Nalgene in there with room to spare. Like a Nalgene and your water filter would fit no problem. But anyway, you get a bleeding prevention kit and you get the nylon pouch for $39 and you slide that in there. And now you have a $102 made in America, guaranteed forever blowout kit that is Molly Pals Webbing compatible in multicam black and Marpat, or I'm sorry, in M81 woodland, in multicam, in coyote tan, ranger green, black, gray, or red with reflective. And for civilian applications, I highly recommend the red with reflective because you can find it in the dark. And that's the show. Let's pray. Oh, good morning, Father Yah. Father, thank you for allowing us to wake up on this side of the dirt again. Father, thank you for being sovereign over all things and being a good, good Father and loving us inexplicably and making us a way to come home again by the blood of Messiah. Father, thank you for the good works that you're doing in us and through us, and I pray that you just continue to tarry with us. Father, I pray that your Spirit would be indwelt in us, that you would pour out your Spirit on all flesh, Father, that you would give us wisdom and discernment, that you would move us where we need to go, give us the words that we need to speak, and let us speak to those that need to hear those words, Father. That you would let us know truth from lies, good from bad, and that we would jump at the urging of your Spirit when you say jump. Father, please give us strength and power and authority in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach to be your hands and feet. Let us do many mighty works in your name. Shine into the darkness, be your light for comfort and for healing, Father, for restoration as a witness as to just how good you are, how loving and merciful you are. Father, please give us peace that surpasses all understanding. That as the world continues to spiral out of control, that you are still king, and that it's your will be done. And that as even things happen around the world or even in our own lives that we can't explain, that those things that we can't explain are working together for your good and for the good of those who love you. And that your ways are not our ways, that your ways are higher than ours, and that we would trust in you, that you have our best intentions at heart. Father, please continue to guide us and teach us and lead us. And let us walk to the best of our ability in the footsteps of Mashiach, to model the pattern that he gave us as what it means to walk as a believer back towards you. Father, please put a hedge of protection around everybody within the sound of my voice, that no weapon formed against us shall prosper. And Father, be there anything within the sound of my voice that's not of you, we come together in agreement and rebuke it in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach and command it to flee. Father, please bless us. Make us the head and not the tail. Help us to keep our chins up, to operate in righteousness, with love and discernment. And Father, please remember us today as we remember you, and make your face to shine upon us. And please deliver provision, protection, and blessing to everybody within the sound of my voice. And I ask these things in Yeshua's name. Amen. James G., you didn't just buy BDUs without tapes and patches. You didn't get on. James, I all the way did get on. And they also, here's a little trick for you, James. My uncle was a sergeant major in the Marine Corps. Two of my cousins were Navy SEALs. My older sister was in the Army. You think there were a bunch of name tapes laying around that said Morris on them? There were. Don't accuse me of being a liar, James. I don't appreciate that. You might want to pray on that. Y'all have a blessed day. Shalom.